What happens when a beloved British acting legend walks onto a morning talk show expecting a friendly chat and instead gets ambushed by a host who seems more interested in stirring controversy than celebrating her guest's achievements? In just 31 seconds, a simple question about Julie Walters' latest project would spiral into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history, exposing a side of Lorraine Kelly that viewers had never seen before. The morning started like any other episode. The studio lights were bright, the audience was settled in their seats, and Julie Walters walked onto the set with that warm smile everyone knows and loves. She had been invited to talk about her new film, a passion project she had spent years bringing to life. The atmosphere seemed pleasant enough as she took her seat on the couch, greeting Lorraine and the other panelists with genuine warmth. Sitting alongside Lorraine that morning were two regular contributors to the. There was Marcus, the entertainment correspondent who usually kept things light and breezy, and Sarah, a lifestyle expert known for her bubbly personality. Both of them seemed excited to have Julie on the show, exchanging pleasantries as the cameras prepared to roll. "Julie, wonderful to have you here," Lorraine began, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Now, let's talk about this new film of yours. I have to say, when I first heard about it, I thought, really? Another period drama? Haven't we seen enough of those?" The studio went quiet. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his seat, glancing sideways at Sarah, who looked equally taken aback. Julie's smile faltered for just a moment, but she recovered with grace. "Well, I think every story has something unique to offer," Julie replied carefully. "This particular film explores themes that I found deeply moving, and I thought audiences might connect with." Yes, Lorraine interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "But don't you think, at this point in your career, you should be choosing projects that are a bit more, I don't know, relevant? I mean, who really cares about these costume dramas anymore?" Marcus tried to intervene, his voice cautious. "I actually think the film looks quite compelling, Lorraine. The reviews have been—" "I'm talking to Julie, Marcus," Lorraine snapped, not even looking at him. Her attention remained fixed on Julie, who was now visibly trying to maintain her composure. "I respect your opinion, Lorraine," Julie said, her voice steady but with an edge that hadn't been there before. "But I chose this role because the story matters. It's about real women who faced real struggles, and I think that's always relevant." Sarah jumped in, trying to lighten the mood. "I think what Julie is saying is that good storytelling transcends time periods, don't you think, Lorraine? I mean, the emotional core of a story is what—" "Sarah, please," Lorraine cut her off with barely concealed irritation. "I'm trying to have a conversation here." She turned back to Julie, leaning forward in her chair. "What I'm really asking, Julie, is whether you're just playing it safe. You've been in the industry for how long now? Decades? And yet you keep going back to the same types of roles. Where's the risk-taking? Where's the edge?" The audience had gone completely silent. You could feel the tension radiating from the stage. Julie's expression had changed from polite patience to something harder, more guarded. "I've taken plenty of risks in my career, Lorraine," Julie said, her voice quieter now but carrying more weight. "I've played characters that challenged me, that scared me, that made me grow as an actor. Just because a film is set in the past doesn't mean it's safe or easy." "Oh, come on," Lorraine scoffed, actually scoffing on camera. "You're telling me that putting on a corset and doing an accent is challenging? Please, I've seen your work, Julie. You could do these roles in your sleep." Marcus looked horrified. "Lorraine, I don't think that's fair to say. Julie has won awards for her performances. She's one of the most respected." "Marcus, if I want your input, I'll ask for it." Lorraine snapped again, more forcefully this time. The entertainment correspondent fell silent, looking down at his notes. Julie sat up straighter, her famous warmth completely gone now. "I'm not sure what you're trying to achieve here, Lorraine, but I came on this show in good faith. I came to talk about a project I'm proud of, not to be attacked." "Attacked?" Lorraine laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Oh, Julie, don't be so dramatic. I'm just asking questions. Isn't that what journalists do? Or are you so used to everyone fawning over you that you can't handle a bit of honest critique?" "Honest critique is one thing," Julie replied, her voice rising slightly. "What you're doing is something else entirely. You're being dismissive. You're being rude to your own panelists. And frankly, you're being disrespectful to me." Sarah tried once more to salvage the situation. "Maybe we could talk about the director Julie worked with on this film? I heard there's a really interesting story about how the project came together." "Sarah, For the last time, I'm conducting this interview, Lorraine said through gritted teeth. If you can't sit there quietly, perhaps you should leave the set. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. And Julie had clearly had enough. You know what, Lorraine? Julie said, standing up from the couch. I don't think I need to sit here and listen to this. I've been in this industry long enough to know when someone is trying to create drama for ratings, and that's exactly what you're doing. Sit down, Julie, Lorraine commanded, her voice sharp. We're not finished here. Oh, I think we are, Julie replied, her voice calm but firm. I came here to have a professional conversation about my work. Instead, you've spent the entire time trying to belittle me, interrupting your colleagues, and creating a hostile environment. I won't be part of it. Lorraine's face flushed red. How dare you walk off my show? Do you know how many actors would kill to be in that seat? You should be grateful I even invited you on, the audience gasped audibly. Marcus and Sarah both looked at Lorraine with expressions of disbelief. Julie paused, turning back to face the host. Grateful? Julie repeated, her voice incredulous. Lorraine, I've been working in this industry since before you had a television show. I don't need to be grateful for the opportunity to be insulted on camera. What I need is to be treated with basic respect, which clearly isn't going to happen here. Oh, here we go, Lorraine said, rolling her eyes. The big star can't handle a tough interview. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Julie. You're all the same. You want everyone to worship the ground you walk on, but the moment someone asks you a real question, you fall apart. Marcus finally found his courage. Lorraine, that's not what happened here at all. You've been antagonistic from the start. Julie has been nothing but professional, and you've been. You're fired, Lorraine said flatly, not even looking at Marcus. Get off my set. The studio erupted in shocked murmurs. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Marcus sat frozen, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Excuse me? Marcus said weakly. You heard me, Lorraine said coldly. You're fired. I don't need panelists who undermine me on my own show. Security will show you out. Julie looked at Marcus with sympathy, then back at Lorraine with something close to contempt. This is unbelievable. You're actually firing someone for standing up to your bullying? It's my show, Lorraine said, her voice rising. My name is on it. I can do whatever I want. And right now, I want you to sit back down and finish this interview properly, or I'll make sure everyone knows that Julie Walters is impossible to work with. That's a threat, Julie said quietly. You're threatening me on live television. It's not a threat, it's a promise, Lorraine shot back. You think you're untouchable because you've been in a few movies? I have a platform, Julie. I can destroy your reputation with a few well-placed comments. Sarah stood up, her voice shaking. Lorraine, please stop. This has gone way too far. Julie is our guest. She deserves better than this. We all do. Lorraine whirled on Sarah. Are you questioning me too? Do you want to join Marcus in the unemployment line? If that's what it takes to maintain my integrity, then yes, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. What you're doing is wrong, Lorraine. It's cruel and it's unprofessional. Julie looked at Sarah with respect. Thank you, Sarah. At least someone here understands basic human decency. Don't you dare act like you're the victim here. Lorraine seethed, standing up from her chair now. You came on my show with an attitude. You were defensive from the start. Defensive? Julie's voice rose in disbelief. Lorraine, you insulted my work within the first minute. You dismissed everything I tried to say. You've treated your colleagues like they're beneath you. The only person with an attitude problem here is you. Get out, Lorraine said suddenly, pointing toward the exit. Get out of my studio right now. I was already leaving, Julie said coolly. But let me be clear about something. The reason I'm walking off has nothing to do with tough questions. I've done hundreds of interviews. I've been asked challenging questions by some of the best journalists in the world. What I won't tolerate is being treated like I'm worthless. What I won't tolerate is watching you abuse your staff and then threaten me for calling it out. You're making a huge mistake, Lorraine warned, her voice low and dangerous. You have no idea the kind of damage I can do to your career. Julie laughed, but it was a sad sound. My career will be fine, Lorraine. I have decades of work I'm proud of. What you need to worry about is your own reputation, because everyone watching this right now just saw the real you, and it's not pretty. The audience started to applaud, quietly at first, then growing louder. People were actually clapping for Julie as she stood her ground against Lorraine. The host's face turned an even deeper shade of red. "Stop that," Lorraine shouted at the audience. "Stop clapping right now. This is my show." But they didn't stop. In fact, more people joined in. Marcus, despite being fired, started clapping too. Sarah was openly crying now, but she was also applauding. "This is mutiny," Lorraine hissed. "I won't stand for this." "Then maybe you should sit down and think about how you got here," Julie said calmly. "Think about how you treated everyone in this room. Think about whether this is really the person you want to be." "I don't need life lessons from you," Lorraine spat. "You're nothing special, Julie Walters. You're just another actor who got lucky." The applause stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was deafening. Julie stared at Lorraine for a long moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice was filled with disappointment rather than anger. "You know what's sad, Lorraine? I used to watch your show. I used to think you were warm and genuine. I told my agent I was excited to come on because I thought we'd have a nice conversation. But this isn't journalism. This isn't entertainment. This is just sad." "Get out," Lorraine repeated, but her voice had lost some of its venom. She sounded tired now, or perhaps she was finally realizing what had happened. Julie began to walk toward the exit, her head held high. Sarah quickly got up and followed her, refusing to stay on set any longer. Marcus gathered his notes and joined them, the three of them forming an unlikely alliance as they headed for the door. "Come back here," Lorraine called after them, but none of them turned around. "I said come back. We're not done. The cameras are still rolling." One of the producers rushed onto the set, whispering urgently to Lorraine, probably telling her they needed to cut to commercial. But Lorraine pushed him away. "No," she insisted. "We're going to finish this show. Bring out the next guest." But there was no next guest scheduled. The entire second half of the show had been meant for Julie. The studio descended into chaos as staff members scrambled to figure out what to do. The audience sat in stunned silence, having witnessed something they'd never forget. At the exit, Julie paused and looked back one final time. Lorraine was standing alone on the set, surrounded by empty seats where her panelists had been, facing an audience that was no longer on her side. "I hope it was worth it," Julie called across the studio. "Whatever you were trying to prove, I hope it was worth it." Lorraine opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time since the interview began, she seemed to have nothing to say. Julie walked out of the studio with her dignity intact. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of confusion and crisis management. Producers were shouting, audience members were talking loudly among themselves, and Lorraine was demanding that someone do something to fix the situation. But it was too late to fix anything. What had happened had been broadcast live. Thousands of people had watched the entire exchange unfold in real time. They had seen a respected actress come onto a show expecting a professional interview and instead face hostility and disrespect. They had seen a host abuse her power, threaten her guest, and fire a staff member for speaking up. They had seen everything. In the hallway outside the studio, Julie found Sarah and Marcus waiting for her. They looked shaken but resolute. "Are you all right?" Sarah asked, touching Julie's arm gently. "I'm fine," Julie assured her. "I'm sorry you both got caught up in that." "Don't apologize," Marcus said firmly. "We should be thanking you. Someone needed to stand up to her. She's been getting worse for months, but everyone's too scared to say anything." "Well, I'm not scared," Julie said simply. "I'm too old and too tired to put up with behavior like that. Life's too short." Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. "What she said to you? About your work? About your career? None of that was true. You're brilliant, Julie. Everyone knows that." "Thank you, love," Julie said, giving her a warm hug. "That means a lot." They stood together in the hallway for a few moments, an odd little group brought together by unexpected circumstances. None of them knew exactly what would happen next, but they knew they had done the right thing. Back in the studio, Lorraine was still trying to regain control of her show, but the damage was done. The viewers had seen what they had seen. The audience in the studio had witnessed everything, and somewhere, recordings were already being made, clips were being shared, and people were talking about what had just transpired. Julie Walters had walked onto that set as a guest. She had left as a symbol of grace under pressure, of standing up to bullying, of refusing to be diminished by someone else's insecurity and cruelty. She had shown that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away with your head held high. And Lorraine Kelly, she was left standing in her studio, surrounded by the wreckage of an interview that had gone catastrophically wrong. all because she had chosen to attack rather than celebrate, to diminish rather than uplift, to be cruel rather than kind. The cameras eventually stopped rolling, the audience was ushered out, the studio lights dimmed. But what had happened would not be forgotten. It would become one of those moments that people reference, one of those interviews that gets replayed and analyzed and discussed. All because a host forgot that her job was to make her guests feel welcome, not to tear them down. All because someone chose ego over empathy, ratings over respect, controversy over kindness. Julie Walters had walked off the Lorraine Kelly show. But in doing so, she had won the respect of everyone watching. She had shown what it looks like to stand up for yourself with grace and dignity. She had proven that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone else's game. The morning had started like any other episode, but it had ended in a way that no one could have predicted. And as Julie walked out of the building and into the fresh air, she felt lighter somehow, free from the toxic atmosphere of that studio, free from the need to please someone who clearly had no intention of being pleased, free to continue her career on her own terms, without compromising her values or her dignity. Behind her, the building still buzzed with activity. Crisis meetings were probably starting. Damage control strategies were being discussed. But Julie didn't look back. She had said what needed to be said. She had done what needed to be done. And now, she was moving forward. Because that's what you do when someone tries to make you smaller. You stand tall. You speak your truth. And you walk away knowing that you maintained your integrity, even when it would have been easier to stay silent. Julie Walters had come to talk about her film. Instead, she had given everyone watching a masterclass in how to handle a bully. Not with matching aggression, but with calm strength. Not by stooping to their level, but by refusing to engage with their toxicity. She had walked off the show, but in reality, she had walked into legend. This would be the interview people remembered, not because of anything promotional, but because of the moment a beloved actress said enough is enough and chose self-respect over submission. And somewhere, in living rooms and offices across the country, people were talking about what they had just witnessed. They were discussing Lorraine's behavior, Julie's response, and what it all meant. They were choosing sides, and overwhelmingly, they were choosing Julie. Because at the end of the day, people recognize authenticity. They recognize when someone is being genuine and when someone is being cruel for the sake of it. They recognize grace under pressure. They recognize dignity in the face of disrespect. Julie Walters had all of those things, and on that morning, in that studio, she had shown them all to the world. The interview that was supposed to promote a film had instead revealed something much more important about character, about standing up for yourself, and about knowing when to walk away. It had shown that true strength isn't about dominating others or wielding power carelessly. True strength is about maintaining your values, even when someone is actively trying to undermine you. As Julie got into her car and drove away from the studio, she thought about everything that had just happened. Part of her was still shocked by the hostility she had encountered, but another part of her, the part that had survived decades in a tough industry, was proud of how she had handled it. She hadn't shouted. She hadn't thrown insults back. She had simply stated her boundaries, called out what was wrong, and removed herself from the situation. Sometimes, that's all you can do. Sometimes, that's exactly what you should do. The morning sun was getting higher in the sky. Somewhere, people were going about their normal days, unaware of the drama that had just unfolded. But those who had watched knew. They had seen something real and raw and honest. They had seen what happens when someone values themselves enough to walk away from mistreatment. And they had seen Julie Walters in what might be her most memorable performance, yet simply being herself, standing firm, speaking truth, and walking away with her head held high.